Hey, hi, how's it going? What's up? I took out my braids. I'm deep conditioning. I also cooked today, so we are winning. Team Olivia adulting. Woo! We are out here. We are out here. Whoever's watching this and is supporting me. There's something I want to talk about today. So I have heard people throw around this term incel. I didn't really know what it means. Like I gotta explain to you guys. Like I live from my own perspective, as in like I have my own lived experience, which is so fucking intersectional and nuanced. Like there's all these things about race and class and gender and wealth and access and privilege that honestly I have had to understand. There's also industry and nepotism, all this shit that like in my personal lived experience I've had to unpack and think about, but you just might not know about some of these things. So like you don't have some personal experience or even anyone in your life who's like dealt with it, and maybe I'll make more content about some of these experiences in general. But I feel like if you've kind of been here for the ride via like Twitter or Instagram or Finstagram, or even if you've kind of gone back through the YouTubes and I guess Facebook, you might have, in order for you to contextualize all of it, you might have had to been there. You've had to be there for all of it, because I've sort of like unpacked a little bit at a time, and I'm trying to get to a space financially where I've accumulated enough money to basically make content full time, and I'm getting there close. I'm closer and closer to getting there. So when we get there, we'll be able to make more clear videos about what means what and what happened, and really do a better job of telling these stories in more depth. But let's talk about incels for a second. So incels are people on the internet. It's not just men, but it's mostly men who don't have access to sex at all, and they become like violent in society because they don't have access to sex. Now, I didn't know there was like an internet term for this, and I've seen people use the term. I didn't know that's what it meant. So if anyone was wondering what an incel is, that's what an incel is. There's a lot of incels in the Black community, but there's more incels in the white community. Now, it's very difficult to have a conversation about what an incel is in the white community without contextualizing the fact that there's a lot of members of the white community who are also surrounded by like communities of color. And the thing about communities of color is we've had to be like very efficient with really everything. So that means like every child who's born has like a story and kind of a life plan in some way, even if that's like this child is going to be a prostitute. Like every child has kind of like a life plan, because there's not that many. We're only 13% of the population, and shit has gotten real political with like drugs and prostitution and exploitation pimps and all type of shit that's like where people have had to like legitimize the underworld in real clear ways. We have entire rap albums that are all about it, right? But now I feel like we're at a point in society where most people have to enter the real world, right? You just have to get like a legitimate job. You've got to kind of be like by the book. So now we've got these like Black capitalists who are talking all this shit about, they're talking about so many things. Now they're talking about what respectability politics, and they're talking about fatherhood and respect and like conservative values. And we just have to pull out some receipts here, because these are the same men who are making songs about exploitation, right? So the conversation around like Aries Spears is weird for a few reasons. First of all, like, I'm sorry, but I'm anti-fat people. Like, I would fuck a homeless guy before I'd fuck a fat dude in a second. Like, that's just where I am in my life. I think that if you're a fat male in America, you're gross, because you could easily get a 24-hour, Planet Fitness membership for $10 and do weight training for 1 hour a day and solve that problem. The same thing for like fat Black women. It's kind of like there's just no, unless there's like some medical reason for you to be that obese, Americans are disgusting, and you guys should all do better, because it's ridiculous. There's no reason. Then there's whole other conversations around like beauty politics, where I guess like especially Black men in this case don't realize that like it's kind of the luck of the draw in a sense, just because like genetically every woman has a bunch of eggs. Now some eggs have phenotypes that are really popular, other eggs have phenotypes that are not. So like some black women will have really attractive children, some won't, and it's not just like every egg, every offspring will look just like the mother. Most of the time they do, but sometimes they just won't, and you'll get really lucky or get really unlucky. You don't really know what you're going to get. It's a mixed bag. But you can do a lot of genetic testing at this point to kind of determine what you're going to get before you get it. Not the point though. So, but in terms of like poor people, some men of color are forgetting, or they just don't understand the value that aesthetics have in mainstream society. So like even a really, really poor, attractive black woman or woman of color has so much value. She actually has like way more value than like an attractive poor man. An attractive woman, no matter what her socioeconomic class, has so much value just from being attractive. And I think some of the problem in society that we're having right now is I think it's kind of being solved, but that people don't know what an attractive woman looks like. I've made so many other videos about this, but like there are a lot of really attractive black women specifically right now, and I think we got to just kind of go back for a second and realize like why it's like that. Ugly black people have died off, not even in a joking way, like they've been shot, they've just done things, they've been put in socioeconomic positions where they're like so marginalized that they died, and so they don't have any offspring, and their offspring probably died too. The people who are left are like literally the top of the funnel, especially in America. But it's kind of like internationally at this point, just because like the poverty in Africa is not a joke. And the people who survive that are the fittest of the fit. So if we're talking about like, what is it? Survival of the fittest. Every black person right now who's alive, if you're just alive, you are like the fittest of the fit, because all the shit that we've had to go through and had to live through, especially black women. There aren't really any ugly black women who've survived. They've all died. All the ugly black women have died off. That's why y'all don't see our numbers growing. Like if you are an unfit black woman, you are for sure gonna die. You're not gonna survive. It's brutal out here. Not even in a joking way. The women that y'all see who are like, if they've got a food stamp, if they've got a bus pass, if they've got shoes for walking, at this point, those bitches have overcome like some crazy shit. Whatever that they've figured out to just literally have breath in their lungs, they're like superheroes. Because if you were only able to hear their story and the shit that they've overcome, you'd be like, damn, I couldn't make it through that. And the fact is, you're right. You couldn't live through that, and somehow these bitches have managed to live through it. So know that. So also, let's be clear, if you see any bitch with like a thriving YouTube channel or any YouTube channel at all, she's like the cream of the crop. You gotta be clear here. The black people in America, we're only 13% of the population. And our numbers are on the decline. Most of the people that y'all are counting here are like children. They're babies. They don't even have the ability yet to talk as an adult. There's just not that many black women in the country. There's just not that many. Like, we can talk all day about how awesome Beyonce is or how beautiful Khalees is, whatever. Those are two women, like 1, 2. See how I counted them on my fingers? Like, Olivia, all the problematic shit that I've done. I am one woman. That's 3 women. 3. You know how many white girls are out here? Like, it's 80% of the population, or it's something like 60% of the population, so that's 50% of that is white women. There's hell of these bitches. There's so many. All of them have been able to survive. The ugly ones, the fat ones, the retards, the ones who have no education, the ones who can't talk or speak, illiterate ones, broke ones in trailer homes, like busted ones. All of the white women have been able to survive. Unfortunately, that just has not been the case for black women. If you are busted or deformed in any way, you've died off. That's just real. The bitches who are still here are the cream of the crop. And you can believe it, you can not believe it, you can have your feelings, it doesn't matter. That's the reality. But we've also got to talk about this for a second, because like Khadijah talked about this this morning, and I really had to like sit with it for a few hours. So she was saying, like, to all of you women who are talking about divesting and being a feminist who's divested, I feel like some of you are discounting the fact that some women don't have the opportunity or the ability to divest because they are stuck in a relationship with a man. And I thought about that for a few hours, and wow, that really makes sense, because I do realize, like, for myself, it was so difficult for me to figure out this linear path. Like, there was a whole path set out for me from birth just because I was an American, but there's all these things around being black that, like, kind of were trying to detract from that. And I had to do all of this work to, like, bypass the black bullshit and get onto the path of, like, my own human American experience that had nothing to do with gender. But now that I sit in this space, I realize that other people who are of my gender have, like, fallen into traps. Because here's the thing that we have to realize, like, poor men of color set traps for their women so that they will be able to survive. Because, like, if we were all to just live in basically, like, the rules of white society, poor men of color would for sure die off. They would not reproduce. Like, no women of color would be having babies with them. Because A, most of them are poor, most of them are not Christians, most of them don't really have any morality or ethics, they're not, like, respectable in any way in society, they don't have any money, like, they are literally offering nothing in terms of characteristics that are valuable in white mainstream society. They offer nothing of that. So the only reason that women right now are still procreating with them is because the men and themselves have told themselves stories about other things that they believe are desirable. So, like, Arab men, I feel like, have told Arab women, we are both Arab, we want to be Arab here. Being Muslim is positive in some way, so therefore be with me and have my children. And some women believe this story, and now they have more babies. But, like, this contributed nothing in terms of, like, assets that are left to the children, right? Because, like, most of these people are still living in public housing in America, living off of food stamps, and the woman doesn't have any skills or education or job. She literally, all she has is a womb and a story about what it means to be Muslim. Let's be clear, that's what's happening. You can have a story about whatever else, that's the truth. And so then there comes this, like, kind of compare and contrast idea with, like, okay, black American women who in so many ways have never had the opportunity to actually be women because they've had to be sole providers first. And many black American women have also had to deal with sort of the burden of motherhood. And I'm saying that in a very specific way. The burden of motherhood, because they've had to do it without a partner or a father figure or any financial resources from the male in that partnership. It's not really a partnership. And then they've also had to deal with, like, anti-black hate from black males. All of that collectively makes for just an awful situation. Like, and so for me, I got into the chat and I was like, I'm divesting from men. I'm just divesting from all men just because I want a point in my life where my entire narrative has nothing to do with a male. And I want that. And I can have that. And I didn't see that as a privilege. But it actually is a privilege. Because, like, if I never talk to any men, if I never do anything with any men, my life will be just as good as it is right now. I don't know what you think. You might be thinking my life is good. You might think my life is awful. I really don't know what your opinions are. What I'm telling you, though, is that, like, if from this point to the rest of my dying day, if I never talk to a man outside of, like, the ones I have to talk to in regard to work, if I never talk to a male, my life will be just fine. As in, like, I will continue to do movie reviews. I will continue to have conditioned hair. We will continue to go out and dance at the garden. I will continue to be as beautiful as I am. Like, you can be like, she's not beautiful, she is, whatever your opinions are. The fact is, this is what I've got, and I'll continue to have it with or without a guy. And that's real. And I'm just saying that that's my Black American experience. And you can't take anything away from that. And no man can like force his way into the narrative. That's just real. They can do illegal shit like steal and kill and rob and stalk, which is what they're trying to do. Dude, I was at the bus stop and like 3 men literally stopped their cars, hit a like a flippy, like as in they busted a bitch and rolled around the other way talking about, do you want to be friends? No, sir. I don't want to be friends. I'm wearing a flip-flop, baggy jeans, and a beanie. If I could be more, like, androgynous, I don't think I could. Like, what more could I say? As in, like, I am not attracting male attention. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't know how I could say that more loudly and clearly. I wasn't wearing a dress or anything. I had my basic-ass sandals, and I had, like, I mean, literally, I had those busted ass French braids. I didn't even have my hair out. Like, at least now, like right now, my hair's out. Okay, maybe it's giving like woman or black woman, whatever it's giving to you. I feel like my hair right now is giving like a feminine energy because, you know, my hair is, it's, you know, well, it's not shoulder length, but it's out. And it's, you know, it's, I have hair. This is what I'm saying. And hair is, for women, this like symbol of womanness, of like sexiness for women. This is, I can't speak to what men believe. I'm a woman. I can only speak from my own experience here. But you know, it's giving like finesse in some way. Now, you don't have to believe this. You can believe it's not attractive to you or whatever. To straight men who are interested in whatever my type is, they like it. I like it. We all like it. It's a positive thing in the community of men who like sex with women like me. I can't speak, this is not everyone in the population. This is just that small percentage of men who, you know, who check the boxes to what I just said. Now, we've got to realize like roles here, because that's what I feel like is just so confusing. For me specifically, I have always lived in like white society has been my go-to. I don't really know all of the rules of black society because I feel like I can't unpack it all. Like, I didn't grow up in the Marcy projects like Jay-Z did. And so when he got on the Twitter Spaces and he's talking about he didn't know what capitalism as a word was, it was like, damn, this nigga was like really broke. Like, he was like broke. I don't know who doesn't know about the word capitalism and what it means in American society, but he was serious. He's a grown-ass man, a grown-ass black man who said that publicly as a billionaire. Like, nigga, join a reading group. I hope Jay-Z joins a book club, starts a book club. I think that Nicole made some great points today about people taking on the imagery of black radicals without actually understanding the politics, and that's so strange and sad. It's so strange and so sad. Like, illiteracy is just such a big issue in this community. Like, niggas do not read. They will literally have a like Black Panther shirt and have never read a book or listened to a talk. At least Jay-Z has listened to the one YouTube clip of Louis Farrakhan. I appreciate that. I would encourage Jay-Z to go listen to all the other conversations from Black Muslims and the Nation of Islam and other members. Like, go watch the Malcolm X movie and maybe like read some of Malcolm X's early speeches that really convey the politics around being black in America, and not just take the highlights from Louis Farrakhan. Now, I feel like I personally am in a space where I can talk about the Nation of Islam. I don't know what the fuck happened, but when I was in Washington, the Nation of Islam decided to follow me and like all of my posts. It was very strange. Because, like, my brother is, like, one of those black Muslim people who, and I got into a lot of trouble around that with the white billionaires who were funding my poverty research. They were like, we don't believe in, like, radical black people and blah, blah, blah. I can't believe you said this shit. And I was like, all I can talk about is my lived experience. And, like, I'm sorry, but I have been around black radicals and I understand the agenda, and it has nothing to do with white people. It's like anti-white in all the ways. You can object that and pretend like it doesn't exist, but like they don't like white people. Feel your feelings about it. Like, I feel like as an individual, I understand that sentiment. I also understand the sentiment of white supremacists. I also understand the sentiment of anti-black Asians. I also understand the sentiment of anti-black niggers. Like, I feel like all the racist groups at this point, I empathize with them because I understand their arguments. I don't agree with their arguments, but I understand them like fully. Like, I can explain the arguments of any racist group at this point because I, in my real life, have encountered them and enabled them to explain their racism to me. So I understand it. Like, I've taken the time to unpack the narratives. They've given me like readings and talks. I've attended their talks. I understand where the racist groups are coming from. Maybe you don't have that experience. I do. I do. I think it's funny because people always talk about California as being so liberal, as if we're like better or some way or immune to the racism. But I would say absolutely not. California probably has the widest array in terms of the diversity of racists. Like, we have the most diverse group of racists on planet Earth. We've got Indian racists, we've got Chinese racists, we've got Anglo-Saxon racists, we've got Jewish racists, we've got black racists, we've got all the racists, okay, who are all here in the same place, who are existing, and they're capitalist racists. So it's a different level of like, we fucking hate you and we hope that you don't reproduce. And I have personally dealt with that. A lot of you haven't, because you live in a space where you think the world is only black and white, or you think the world is only like Desi versus other Asian, or whatever your scenario is, where you're like from the developing world and you're like, oh, racism is only like this. No, bitch, no. Like, the Anglo-Saxons hate Latinos. So whatever you are, if you're a Latino who believes that they're white, you're a white Spaniard, they hate you too. If you are not a European white person from Europe, they are not fucking with you. They don't fuck with Spanish or nothing like that. So in terms of what America is and American racism, you are a person of color. In the same way that many Ethiopians do not see themselves as black. You guys see Habesha people as black. Many Habesha people do not see themselves as black. You can feel what you feel about that. I can't describe other people's sentiments. You'd have to go to their channel to like hear their experience for themselves. But many Habesha people, Eritrean people, and Ethiopian people do not see themselves as black. You as a European person can feel your feelings about that. You as a black person can feel your feelings about that. I personally identify as black. I personally identify as Ethiopian, African. I personally do not identify with anything European. I identify with Europe as a whole continent. I identify as a part of the developed world, even as a place that I would like to live. Why? Because it has electricity and a functional government and free education. Those things specifically I agree with and would like to consume for myself. But beyond that, I see myself as black and African. I don't have another story. I also see myself as a person who does not want to conform to Christian ideology and American politics. I do not believe in the future of America. I understand the people who live their lives by Christian moral ethics. I empathize with those. I actually agree with them. If you are a Christian who is living by certain rules of like the written Bible that praise and believe in like the sanctitude of a man and wife, and you believe in ethics and loving thy neighbor and things like that, I also believe in those things, but I live in reality. And in the reality in which I live, everyone is not Christian. Some people are Muslim, and they don't give a shit about their neighbors at all. They don't actually give a shit about anyone who's not Muslim. So feel your feelings around that. That is the reality. Like, there are people who are selling crack and coke. French Montana, for instance. He's made multiple albums, and he still continues to convey this message of, like, I love cocaine and I sell cocaine to people and I'm a drug dealer. And I see other people who are involved in the drug dealings. I don't use drugs. I do not use illegal drugs. I do not smoke marijuana. I drink champagne and I smoke cigarettes. If you have a problem with either of those things, then maybe your life philosophy does not align with my own, and I don't want to change that for you. Boo, do you be well. I can only tell you about myself. I personally have seen the way that drugs have destroyed the lives of Black women and men, and seeing that, I just didn't want to participate in that. I have other socioeconomic issues and really issues around being Black in America that I'm dealing with. And with those issues alone, my plate is full. I don't have the space. I don't have the space to deal with, other people and their shit. I don't have it. I don't have the space. Now, you might have the space, and if that's the case for you, that's great. I'm just saying I don't have it. I don't have it to give, so I can't give it to you. Someone else might have it, and I hope they give it to you. That's been a short blurb. I think I'm going to go see a movie because I have AMC stubs now because my mom sent me $100. Thank you, Mom. And we are going to go see a film tonight because I think it's useful to just utilize the things that I do have as I have them, just because others don't have them. And I want other Black women to realize that you do get what you pay for. And I paid for the $21 for AMC stubs, and now I'm going to take my Black ass to see a movie. You can feel your feelings about that. That's what's going to happen. Okay.